Building a competitor to Google Analytics isn't something that most people would say is a good idea. Yet, Paul Jarvis and the Fathom Analytics team have built a successful competitor to Google Analytics that on the surface is more expensive than Google Analytics. Google Analytics is giving Google Analytics 4 away for quote, free, and Fathom Analytics starts at $14 per month. To help explain how Fathom Analytics has become successful, I had the opportunity to chat with the co-founder of Fathom Analytics, Paul Jarvis. If you don't know Paul, he's been in the indie hacker space for decades now. First, he was writing books, podcasting, and doing design consulting. You might have even read his most popular book, Company of One, which argues why keeping a company small is the next big thing. Why give all of that up to start Fathom Analytics? Well, I'll let Paul answer that himself.
How Fathom came about was my default stack, which was the stack for basically all web designers forever, was you set up a server, you install, you like write some code or get some code, and then you put Google Analytics on it. And Google Analytics sucks. I don't remember how I had this idea, but it's just like I installed it and I was just like, oh, I wish I didn't have to install this. It just sucks. Like it's bloated, it's shitty software. It's basically from a company that has no problems invading privacy of the entire internet and giving something away for free when it's not really free. So we're paying with our data instead of our money. It was just frustration. Like one day I was just frustrated and I was like, why isn't there just like a simple analytics solution? Like there was a long time ago, something called Mint. Sean Inman created it. And this was before SaaS. Like I basically wanted a one page of analytics because I don't even care that, like I care enough about analytics that I need to know what the stats are, but I don't care enough to look into 1,000 reports or build all of these custom, like I'm not a data analytics person. I'm a designer and a writer.
What I loved about this answer was that it had a few key elements of what a problem we're solving is. First, it's a problem that can create or plug into a movement. Data privacy is a movement that continues to build, and Paul not only is saying, yes, data privacy is important, but thinking about a solution that helps data privacy actually happen. By plugging into the movement and building upon it, positioning Fathom Analytics is a lot easier. Second, he identified the real value of what analytics does for a business owner. As Paul mentioned, he's not a data analytics person. He doesn't need all these bells and whistles that Google Analytics can provide. He just needs a simple dashboard of analytics that tells him how his website and content is performing. By making analytics simpler, your business becomes simpler to understand and you save time not having to hassle with bells and whistles that you do not need. Keeping clutter off your desk and off your tech stack is a sneaky little hack for working more effectively. With a problem and a solution identified, I asked Paul, how did you get the first traction with Fathom Analytics?
So I just opened up Photoshop because that's what designers used at the time. This is back a few years. And I designed what I thought an analytics product should look like. And at the time I had a pretty big audience on Twitter and a newsletter. And I just shared it. It was just like, wouldn't it be cool if analytics looked like this? Like it was just kind of like a throwaway, like, oh, whatever. Well, I want this. Maybe somebody's just going to go and make this. And then that tweet went viral and everybody wanted it. And there was like the fry emoji, take my money. And I guess if nobody's going to make this, I can begrudgingly make this. Yeah, that's kind of how it all started. Is I didn't want to start an analytics company nor have an analytics product, but just from a single tweet, it seemed like the market also felt the same way that I did about Google Analytics.
Okay, a throwaway tweet became the point of knowing that Paul needed to create Fathom Analytics, but what were the first few steps even after that point?
At the same time, I had a pretty popular newsletter that I would send out weekly emails to, and that's where I launched products. That was where the initial push for Fathom to kind of grow started from. I share what I'm working on with my mailing list because I'm not a good developer. I had to find a developer partner who at the time wasn't Jack. Jack came on, I think, about a year into it. So I basically started Fathom with a developer. We built an open source version first because I still was like, I don't know if this is a business. Like people just want this thing. Let's build it. I'm busy doing other things. This is before I released my last book, which took up like a lot of my life and time. And so it was just like, let's just make this little thing, throw it out, forget about it, be done with it. of it. I think it got downloaded like 1 million times. It was good for nerds who knew how to run and set up servers, but it was not
Yeah.
good for people who just wanted the software, right? So it, again, begrudgingly, it was like, okay, guess this should be a business because we're getting more people who want to pay us for the hosted version of it. We weren't getting issues on the GitHub repo. We were getting more people like, hey, like, how can I just have this running for me?
Paul's mindset here was so fascinating. You have people saying, take my money, and Paul is just like, here it is, I'm done with it. That mindset was a good reminder for me though. Just because people are saying, take my money, you don't have to be all in right away. As Paul did, you can essentially build a minimum viable product or MVP and just see where it goes. They launched the MVP, and the feedback they were given was, how can I just have this hosted for me? Which led them to really find a consistent paying customer. It was an iterative process for them, even if they weren't necessarily trying for that. So now Paul has a co-founder, Jack, who is a developer, and they knew what a consistent paying customer was. Someone that wanted Fathom Analytics hosted and not on GitHub to be self-hosted. How did they grow Fathom Analytics from these first few customers to today, where they make, quote from Paul, between $1 million and $1 billion?
Slowly. I don't remember the exact time frame, but I think it took the same amount of time to go from 0 to 10K MRR as it did to go from 10K to 100K MRR. And that's a big difference, right? But
Yeah.
it feels like it was the same amount of time. This happened a while back, so I don't know if I'm remembering it correctly, but like to go to the first 100K, a lot of that was compounding. So in 10 months, we would make 100K. But at the same time, our churn is very low. Once we get a customer, we tend to not lose them, which is something that I really focus on in the business. Is we don't want to just keep getting new customers. We want to keep the customer, like equally important or possibly more important because it's cheaper to keep the customers we have by having good software, good support, being available to folks and that sort of thing. But I think as far as like the mechanics of getting to there, a lot of it was my audience in the beginning. I killed off my internet presence several years into it. So I used to be online. I used to have Twitter and an email list and a personal brand and all of that. I killed all of that off. But at the time in the beginning, that really did give people exposure to the brand and to the product. And then once Jack came on board, he's a hype machine. So he's really good at using Twitter. He's really good at making connections with people, just getting involved in the things that we get involved with. We sponsor podcasts sometimes. He's spoken at conferences. And we're really passionate about the tech stack that we use. So like in the Laravel world, everybody uses Fathom, or almost everybody uses Fathom, right? Because we know these people. We built relationships with these people. We use their software. They use our software. And there's like little pockets and niches of that where it's hard to go out and say, oh, I want to promote my product to the internet. Like, how do you do that? I don't know how to do that. But I know how to, if you parse it down small, I know how to interact and engage with a small group of people and see what they want, what they like, what they don't like, and listen. So in the beginning, that was the main thing. We also have an affiliate program, which does pretty well. We built that, I think probably about 1.5 years into Fathom. Like we pay commissions for life. So if somebody signs up with your affiliate program code, then as long as they're a customer, we pay you every single month. Really, that's been really helpful, to be honest, because people love to talk about Fathom anyways. So giving them a little financial incentive there has been pretty awesome.
There's a lot to unpack in this answer. One, to stay focused on keeping a low churn is something that gets overlooked a little bit in my mind with most. To have growth, you have to have more customers coming in than customers leaving, obviously. If you don't have any customers leaving really, even if you have 10 additional customers for a month, you're still growing. Plus, if you build strong relationships and a great product like the Fathom Analytics team has done, it becomes easy for others to talk about your product. You might not even have to ask for them to share your product with someone else. They'll just do it themselves to help a friend or a colleague of theirs. With growth in mind, building a venture that doesn't have venture capital like Fathom Analytics, revenue doesn't have to be this hockey stick curve of growth. So I asked Paul, how do you approach growth at Fathom Analytics? I loved Paul's directness to that question. His comment of Google killed off universal analytics for some reason was pretty entertaining. Obviously, he's an expert in this field and he's just like, sure, make the dumb decision and I'll take some of your customers who do not want to deal with Google Analytics 4. The part where Paul talked about when it makes sense to add more to the mix was the point that has stuck with me the most. It really doesn't make sense to always add more to the mix. You don't always need a new product or a new feature. Sometimes the best course of action is as simple as just perfecting what you already have. For my final question to Paul, I asked, what's the impact you hope Fathom Analytics has on the world? And here's his response.
That analytics doesn't have to suck. Really, that's why Fathom exists. The part of that too is something that I've been working on for my entire career, is that I want people to understand the value of simplicity. I want people to understand not that simple is easy, because it's not. Things don't have to be complicated. A lot of times, especially in bigger companies, things get complicated because people need to justify a role that exists, or people need to justify like the schooling that they have, or that they're smart. But it doesn't have to be. People can provide value without making things complicated. So the second thing is that people should value digital privacy, and that if you're not paying for the product, you should probably worry, especially when it's $1 billion mega corporation giving you something for free.
People can provide value without making things complicated is so freaking true. It doesn't have to be a fully baked product or a product that has every bell and whistle imaginable. You just have to provide some value and the rest will come together. If you enjoyed this deep dive with Paul Jarvis from Fathom Analytics, let me know in the comments. I would love your feedback. If you're looking for more content like this, you can check out other videos on this channel like this one here.